May 25th, 1991, Israel's military carries out one of the most extraordinary airlifts in the history of mankind. Codenamed Operation Solomon, this liquidates the exile of the Ethiopian Jewry by bringing them all over to Israel over the course of a 36-hour period, Friday going into Saturday, taking 34 planes with all their seats removed. Over 14,000 Ethiopian Jews are airlifted from the Horn of Africa and brought to Israel in this most extraordinary airlift. As a matter of fact, it entered the Guinness Book of World Records for having the largest number of people ever in an airborne aircraft. 1,086 people at one point got onto one of the planes. As a matter of fact, 1,088 people got off that plane. I'll leave it to you to figure out how that could be. And of these 14,000 people, most had no concept of what an airplane was. And many of them, as a matter of fact, were living in such primitive areas that they didn't even understand what steps were. Nevertheless, Israel took responsibility for all of these people, considered a far-flung branch of the Jewish people, and they were airlifted on that extraordinary day. This took place in the final stages of a violent civil war. Secret negotiations were being carried out between Israel and the rebels, as well as with Colonel Mengistu Haile Mariam, who was already fleeing the country. In discussing the secret negotiations with the colonel, I'd like to drop a note of credit on behalf of George Bush I. According to Israel's prime minister who oversaw the operation, that was Yitzhak Shamir, he said that George Bush I, who, by the way, was not always Israel's best friend, in this instance regarding the Ethiopian Jews, came through with flying colors, and he is to be commended for that. Now, why was this done on Saturday? Why was it done on the Jewish Sabbath? Generally speaking, at least until fairly recently, the Israeli government has been rather careful not to do anything large and official on the Sabbath, being as it would desecrate the Sabbath. So why then did this take place on the Sabbath? And the answer is that there was a tremendous danger that there would be a loss of life if the evacuation of Ethiopian Jews from Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, did not immediately take place. There was danger that one side or the other would backtrack on the deal and start killing Jews, and there was a very realistic threat that perhaps some of these Jews would be held hostage. And when they were brought over to Israel, and Israelis found out about it by listening to the news, thousands of people thronged to the airport. People opened up the doors of their homes and symbolically the doors of their communities to welcome their far-flung Ethiopian brethren. At the time that this airlift took place, I was in the United States, and I witnessed that among the Jews in the United States, particularly among those who were more religiously observant and those who were more connected with the state of Israel, those who visit the state of Israel at times, people had tears in their eyes over this reuniting and this saving of the Ethiopian Jews, despite the fact that they shared with these Ethiopian Jews almost nothing in common. They shared no language, no culture, no physical characteristics, and not even a religion, considering that Judaism of today is very, very different from the Judaism that was practiced by the Ethiopian Jews. Nevertheless, having been told that in some way or another these Ethiopian Jews were members of the Jewish people, people were overjoyed at the ingathering of these Jewish exiles from Africa. In discussing the Ethiopian Jewish community, we're going to start out by talking a little bit about what the Ethiopian Jewish community was like on the eve of their rescue. After that, we're going to go back into the recorded history of the Ethiopian Jewish community. And beyond that further, we're going to try and explore the prehistory of the Ethiopian Jews, basically looking at what possible communities they may stem from. Where do they come from? What Jewish community ended up in Ethiopia? Quite a number of theories have been put forth, and we're going to be spending quite some time on it because we're going to have the opportunity in the course of doing so of looking at some other very interesting and exotic communities. So let's begin.